Hey, what's up, Exit the Matrix family? Bob here. Hope all is well for you and yours. I'm just heading to work this morning, and something I wanted to talk about was, believe it or not, the basis of this is a fiction story. It's called the Celestian Prophecy. I was introduced to this book back when I was about 19 years old by my brother's friend. He was into a lot of mystical research and spiritual research and such. And of course, back in this time, I was always delving into UFOs, prophecy, Nostradamus, Edgar Cayce, the Bermuda Triangle, all these type of subjects. And I was a heavy reader into the Bible. I was studying, the meat of the word, you would call it, not the milk of the word that most of your Christians are into nowadays. I was really delving into the Old Testament and New Testament, and researching it back to front to back and such. And anyways, this friend of my brother's, his name was Justin, really cool guy. He was telling me about this book that he'd been reading, and he said it was a fiction book, that it was based on this guy that was a journalist, and he got this call to come check out these manuscripts or scrolls that were found down in Peru. And that there was communities of people basically that were delving into some new spiritual work, healing work and such, based on these writings. And they wanted him to come investigate it. So anyways, essentially the book is about this guy makes this journey to Peru and gets involved in these people that are, basically delving into all these mysteries that were written in this work. And they were there was a community of people that he meets up with, and they were doing experiments on these techniques found in this ancient writing about how humans can interact with plants, how you can make plants grow faster and bigger and stronger and produce more fruit and more vegetables by using your energy on them. And they were also working on healing other people, and it was teaching how to see people's auras, how to see plant auras, and how to read those auras also. And so anyways, I started reading the book. I thought it was a really interesting book. It was essentially a fiction book, but it was written with ancient energy practices woven into the story. And anyways, to make a long story short, I was during this time, right around when I finished reading this book, me and my friends used to get together every night. We used to play basketball, and we played pretty hard. It was just street ball, but we were usually meeting up with some other kids from the high school basketball team. And me and my friends, we didn't play for the high school team. We were just out of high school, but we were street ballers, and it's kind of funny to note we kicked these guys' butts quite a bit. It used to infuriate them because they were on the basketball team, and we never played for the high school basketball team, but we were just street ballers, and it was a good time though. But we played hard, and they played hard, because they were tired of us beating them. And I went up for this one shot, and I kind of got my feet taken out from me, and I landed on my right hand, and man, it just excruciating pain. And I didn't know exactly what was wrong with my hand, but I couldn't move. Two of my fingers and my thumb were like very painful to move. And so when I would feel the side of my hand, it kind of felt like the bone was broken. Like you could feel an indentation there on the side, and it was just very painful. And well, this was a time when I had just started working for Kmart, and I was working sporting goods department, and I hadn't had insurance yet, and I was living on my own. I moved out when I was 18. The summer of my graduation, my parents basically gave me the choice of, you're gonna go to college, or else if you live here with us, you're gonna have to get a job and pay rent. Well, I was pretty independent minded. I had a buddy that was a year older than me, and he'd already bought his own first house. He'd been saving all through high school, for a house, and he was very industrious, and so he'd already had a house, and he was looking for 2 roommates, and he was only going to charge me like $250 rent, and that was including utilities and everything, and which that's fantastical to think of nowadays, right? I mean, even if you're roommating up with people, you're probably still paying $600-700 or more a month, just to rent a room. And this was in a nice 3-bedroom, 2-bath house. So I decided to go move in with my friend, and I was going to go to college. I was accepted, some scholarships and such, but I don't know, had some things kind of fall through with the girlfriend, and I was kind of back and forth. Am I going to go into the Navy? Am I going to go to college? So I decided let's take a year off and I'll decide, and I'll just work. And I did get promoted pretty quick at Kmart. I was like a department manager within my first 6 months, and I was an assistant manager within a year. So that kind of pulled me away from all of that. But anyways, that's just a side story. But anyways, essentially, I was, living on my own already at this time. I couldn't afford, I didn't have insurance yet. I couldn't really afford to go to the doctor to get my hand looked at, but it was kind of swelled up. It was all really bruised, and it felt like a bone was broken in it. And for a week, I was kind of dealing with this excruciating pain, and this guy, Justin, that introduced me to the Celestian Prophecy book, he was like, hey Bob, why don't you try the techniques in that book? He said, I've been delving into all this energy healing, and it's real. And so I remember one night I laid in bed and I thought about the techniques in this book, on how it talked about how to kind of coalesce the energy in your body and to redirect it, and how to raise your vibration up as you're doing this process. And so I laid in bed, and the way I did it was, for one, I laid there for a while, and I did a breathing technique, and I just really tried to calm my body. And I started focusing on my solar plexus area, and I imagined like a whirlwind, or like a, just like, like when you get the spins when you get really drunk. And that feeling where it just feels like you're spinning out of control your body. And when I used to drink, I used to actually find that as a very exhilarating experience. Most people end up throwing up when they get the spins. Not me. I used to crave the spins because it was so exhilarating, and I never threw up from it. Well, this feeling was similar to that. I imagined like just this spinning of energy, a vortex in my solar plexus area going on in my body, and I just kept focusing on it, and it kept getting stronger and stronger, and my body was vibrating. And then at some point where I felt like I couldn't contain this power any longer, I focused it and I moved it down my arm and all the way down to my hand that was injured, and I just held that energy there, just vibrating and just kind of the spinning maelstrom of like energy just focused on my hand, and I held it there for like 10 minutes, as long as I could. And eventually I got really exhausted, and I just I stopped. And for a while afterwards, my hand like felt like it was vibrating, like it was really like hot too, like it was heated up. And then I was just so exhausted, I went to sleep. And here's the amazing part, folks, and this is absolute truth. Next morning I woke up and my hand still hurt, but just like a real dull, just a dull hurt. It wasn't excruciating pain anymore. And I took my fingers and I ran it along that outside bone there from your pointer finger, the one that was broken. I mean, I could feel the indentation before. I could push almost an inch into my hand where that had happened. And now the swelling had gone down and the bone was straight. It was like it used to be again, but it kind of had a slight knot on it. But the pain was just dull. And I couldn't believe it. I mean, it was the most miraculous, amazing thing to realize that I had just energetically healed myself. And it was based off of a fiction book, the teachings in it. And, of course, I told my friends. Most of them didn't believe me, but when I talked to Justin, he just kind of grinned at me and he said, "I told you so." He said, "You had to have the faith in yourself too to do it." And he said, "That's pretty awesome that you basically confirmed what I've been researching." And a few days after this had happened, the pain had completely gone away. The bone was completely fused. Fine. I gained back full function of my right hand. Pain had gone away. It felt like perfect. I was able to go back to playing basketball and, things like that. I could even play on the PlayStation again. That was the PlayStation 1 back in those days. It had just come out, I was a 80s and 90s kid, graduated high school in the late 90s. So it was during that generation, that era. And it was an amazing thing, folks. But the sad part about this, and I've recounted this story a few times on my Exit the Matrix page on Facebook, I felt really guilty because I was also doing heavy research into the Bible. And, of course, in the Old Testament, it was talking about how this kind of stuff was, witchcraft and was, demonic, and that you weren't supposed to do it. And so I started feeling really guilty and scared. I thought I'd committed a great sin. I thought I had gone against God by healing myself. Or that I'd used some kind of, demonic powers to do this. And that this book wasn't even a biblical book and I was doing the practice it was teaching. And of course now to this day, that kind of pushed me away from this, getting into this spiritual stuff, and I kind of dug myself back into the Bible after this, and I didn't go back to that book for a while. But of course at this point in time, I've learned so much more in my hero's journey here on earth, and I've realized that the reason why the Old Testament taught all that, divination and all this other stuff is bad, which is kind of funny because if you think about the Old Testament and New Testament prophets and apostles and such, they were all doing these same techniques. Essentially, they were casting of bones and such. It even says so in the Bible. They were getting visions. They were channeling messages. They were literally doing everything that the Old Testament says that you weren't supposed to do. And of course now I've grown up and I'm more mature in my spiritual understandings. And I also realize now who that Old Testament God is and why he would not want you to come into these powers that we all have innately in us. And I understand now that that's part of the control mechanism, the matrix that we find ourselves in. And I started realizing that that's why the demiurge doesn't want you to figure these things out. And I understood now why the ancient Sumerian gods feared Adam and Eve so much. And why the Demiurge and the Gnostic teachings feared humans so much. Because we are fractals of Source. And we have this ability to heal each other and ourselves. We have these abilities to heal and help plants grow. We have that connection with nature. We are directly connected into the quantum field. We can do amazing things, folks. And we are being held back by the dogmas of religion, by the control mechanisms of this matrix, for a reason: to prevent our awakening, to prevent our empowerment, and to prevent our abilities to help our fellow man and to help this world. So I guess what I want you all to take from this, folks, is that do what resonates with you, but don't be afraid to push the boundaries of self-discovery. And don't be afraid to learn these techniques like Reiki and Tai Chi and all these different healing techniques, folks, because essentially all those are just techniques and practices that help you hone and use this quantum field that we're all connected into. That's all those are. They're not demonic practices. You're not using demons. It's your source connection. You're the channel of that creative energy. And when you learn to use this, you can heal others. You can heal yourself. You can heal plants. You can heal animals. You can learn to see auras, read auras, all of that. Possibly, eventually, to the point where you can even learn telepathy. I think that was even in the book, if I remember. And I think it's something that we've been conditioned to move away from because they don't want us knowing this stuff. But I'll tell you what, folks, nothing will ever change that. And I don't care how many people come at me saying I was getting help from demons. To this day, that finger is healed. My hand is healed. And I did it myself. And I essentially did it by just wild energy. I did it like you could call it wild magic. I wasn't following a practice necessarily. I just did it using my imagination and concentration. I don't think you have to use Reiki and all these things to do this energy healing. Those are just techniques, and those symbols and those words are just intentions. Like, people think those symbols, that Reiki symbols and words are evil incantations and such. No, all it is that they're like pre-programmed intention. Like, that symbol already in your mind means it's going to do a certain way. It's going to harness the power a certain way, so that you don't have, it kind of is a shortcut you're building essentially, or you're using. You don't have to do that though. Prayer, I always say prayer healing is absolutely real. And everybody thinks it's God doing it. Well, yes, it's the source working through you. You're channeling that source energy. So yes, it is God, but it's you too. Don't you get it, folks? So I hope that this fascinates some of you. I hope that this empowers some of you. Remember, Yeshua tried to teach us. You can cast out demons. You can heal others. You can do greater than I. You can even move mountains. He was trying to empower us, folks. Teach us about the Christ consciousness within. Our connection to the Father, not of this world, he taught of. The source connection. Not the God of this realm, but that source, the all, everything. And this is truly a message of love to you folks. I hope this brings some glad tidings to you and some comfort. And the universe wanted me to talk about this today, and it's my own personal story. Come at me how you want with it, folks. Some of you may be like, well, yeah, duh, because some of you have had Reiki done or do Reiki. Some of you do Tai Chi or, these Qigong or Qigong, I'm probably saying it wrong, and some of these other energy healing practices. But that was my personal experience with energy healing, and this was back in the late 90s, early 2000s, and that was a major awakening for me. So, I've been delving into religion and spirituality and mysteries and ancient history and, ancient mythologies and all these things for so long, folks, and it's my passion, and I just want to bring some of that to you guys. I hope you appreciate what I talk about. I really just want to awaken a lot of you to, have a passion for these things too, because this is what I enjoy doing. I wish I could live, off of just, this is my passion. I wish that this could be something I could live off of. But, for right now, I'll continue to build. I appreciate your guys' support that are with me here and on, on all my other platforms. And I'm going to leave you with one little thing from that book that also taught me how to see auras. Now, I just want you to understand, I have not developed this to the point where I can see colored auras or that I can even read people's auras. We all have an innate intuition ability, our sixth sense. But I do see white auras on plants, animals, and humans if I so choose to. And I learned how to do it from that same book, the Celestian Prophecy. It might be the Celestine Prophecy. I've heard people, say it different way, pronounce it different ways. But if I can find a link to that book, I think I remember coming across a YouTube channel one time that had a reading of the whole book, like a follow along to it. Where you can read it as they read it or just listen to it. If I can find that, I'll put a link in the comments for you folks. But if you want to know how to see auras, at least white auras, it's very simple. In the book, how it teaches you to do it, and you can do it like literally after you get off this video, you can go practice this. It's super easy. Essentially, what you got to do is you got to figure out how to allow your third eye to see. And what you got to do is kind of set your normal sight slightly to the side. So it is kind of hard to explain, but basically the way it teaches it is that, like, look at some trees, for instance. I find trees are very easy to do this on, even easier than seeing it on humans. Look at a row of trees or something, and what you're going to do is you're going to, like, as you're looking at them, you're just going to, like, slightly kind of let your eyes go out of focus. And then in your mind, it's kind of like you shift your focus slightly. Instead of just looking purely with your eyes, you have your eyes open and you're looking, but you kind of start to shift your focus to your forehead, and you kind of like slightly, it almost feels like you kind of slightly look to the side a little bit, and all of a sudden you'll notice there's a white aura surrounding all living things. And for me, it emanates, it seems like it's typically about up to 6 inches outward from the trees. And when you get good at seeing it on trees and stuff, you can start seeing it on animals and humans. And I have noticed on humans sometimes it's a lot bigger than that, bigger than trees and plants and such. And I've learned this technique. I've been around, have you ever been around somebody that you get like the warm fuzzies with? And even if it's somebody you don't know, it could be somebody like in the store and you just happen to like walk near them, and all of a sudden you pass through their auric field, your aura's touch, and all of a sudden you feel like the warm fuzzies. You don't know this person, you may not even talk to them, and you feel this just insane, loving, warm, fuzzy feeling. I to this day, I don't completely understand what that's all about, but I think it has something to do with your aura fields, and perhaps that's a entity that from our home outside of this realm. But I've noticed with people like that too, their auras are like just super like powerful. Like they're sometimes they emanate almost like double the length of their height, you know. I mean, just a huge aura field. Now, I would love to see colored auras like some people can see. I can't, but I believe anybody can see the white aura. It's that living energy, folks. And once you see this, you realize that this is not a physical realm like modern science would try to tell you. I'm talking about your physical based scientist, you know, I'm not talking about your quantum physicists and such, because they are delving into the realms of beyond the physical. They are actually finding the scientific connection between the quantum field and humanity, and essentially that leads to the spirit realm. So there are scientists that understand that this is a multidimensional, that this is a realm that we are truly conscious energy spirits, and that the physical is an illusion. But a lot of your teachers in your schools and your professors still hold on to the old Darwin style scientific view and such. But I'll tell you what, when you go out, try this technique with looking at auras, just keep it might take you a few tries, but I'm telling you, once you get it, you'll be like, holy crap, how did I know how to do this? It's like you just slightly let your eyes go out of focus, just slightly, and you kind of move the focus to your forehead, and then boom, you see it. Go try it. I'd love to hear your guys' attempts at this. And I'd love to hear if any of you have healed yourselves or others, if any of you are Reiki practitioners or you do any kind of other energy work. But remember, folks, those are just practices of using the same energy. You can do, all you need is your imagination, folks. Your imagination is it's a powerful tool. That's why children have such a close connection to the spirit realm, folks, because children are fresher from our home. They haven't been away from our home for that long, so they still have a residual understanding deep within of the spirit realm. That's why oftentimes kids can see ghosts, you know, kids can see entities, kids can sometimes have premonitions, and their spiritual abilities are more powerful than adults, because we kind of shut that door as we get older, right? And you're told that that's demonic, or your religion maybe makes you afraid of seeing that, and that it's wrong if you have psychic abilities and such. But I think that makes you realize, folks, that's all part of the matrix, right? They fear you understanding this stuff. They do not want you to understand that this is not the true world. This is the fake world. This is a weak, a sad copy of the spirit realm, and it's here for a reason. I'm not saying this is all bad, but I'll tell you what, there's a lot more to this story, folks, and there's a lot more to you than you realize. And I keep saying we are super powerful beings, and that we are co-creators with Source. And I know that some of you have said that's heretical speaking and stuff, apostasy and stuff like that, but I don't know. I'll tell you what, when you heal another person or you heal yourself, that sure doesn't seem evil to me. But, think what you will of that. But, anyways, folks, I hope at least this brings you an interesting rabbit hole to go down. And I better get on in here to work. I'm going to be late here in a minute. But, hey, I appreciate you guys. I love you guys. Remember what I talked about. $25 donation gets you a half an hour one-on-one with me on Zoom. $50 donation to the platform gives you an hour of my time. And we could talk about stuff like this. We can talk about aliens, ancient history, the Bible, the Nag Hammadi, the whatever you want to, Sumerian cuneiform tablets. I love those of you that have already done this with me. We've had some amazing talks, and it's been great, and I hope it's been well worth those people's time also. So anyways, I will talk to you later.